So used to seeing it over there. I know. Ready, begin.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Right now, I do not have anything to report out from closed session. Public communication, agenda, non-agenda items. Any person wishing to comment on agenda and non-agenda items may do so. Please step to the podium and state your name. It would be appreciated if you would limit your comments to 3 minutes. California law prohibits the school board from taking action on any matter which is not on the posted agenda unless it is determined to be an emergency by the board. Per board policy BB 9323, individual speakers may be allowed 3 minutes to address the board on each agenda or non-agenda item. The board may limit the total time for public input on each item to 20 minutes. With board consent, the president may increase or decrease the time allowed for public presentation, depending on the topic and the number of persons wishing to be heard. The president may take a poll of speakers for or against a particular issue and may ask that additional persons speak only if they have something new to add. Is there anyone that would like to speak to the board? No. Okay. May I have a motion to approve the agenda?
I'll make that.
Okay. May I have a second?
Mr. Crowe.
Yes. Get used to voices. All in favor?
I
Hey, dissent? Passes 5-0. Our student representative is not here today, but she did give her report to Mr. Posey.
Thank you. Reading for Jolene Bash. She sent me her report and used like 4-point font. So if I see me squinting really hard, I apologize. With finals week approaching, the students at Orriston High School remaining steadfast, her words, in their pursuit of studying, checking their grades, and turning in their assignments. Students have taken their math and English iReady diagnostic tests for the past 2 weeks. We are currently anticipating the results of those assessments. As for the nutrition break schedule for removal of next year, I'm speaking on behalf of the seniors who desire its removal by next semester. Lunch cut short by 5 minutes for a nutrition break is not favored from the perspective of my classmates. It is currently 35 minutes long, which is arguably not long enough to temporarily exit the school for a meal with friends. That is why the removal of the nutrition break by next semester would ease the stress upon upperclassmen and teachers who travel for lunch. In regard to successes, 2 of our senior students have been accepted to schools through QuestBridge. Their schools are Brown University and the University of Chicago. Yeah, nice schools. The senior class remains proud of their accomplishments. On another note, our math classes have remained relatively difficult, especially for students who have lost touch with the lessons taught during distance learning in 2020, 2021. This has been proven through the SBAC test and iReady diagnostic. Several of the students in my AP calculus class lack the confidence to graph parabolas and such. Our math pathways have become a blur for the majority who struggle to understand the level of math they are branched into in any grade. Wait, I will offer for email. Oh, that's it, in any grade level. Sincerely, Julian Bosch.
That's one of the things that we're finding. If you look at the data from across the whole United States, the math was the hardest part for them to grasp during COVID and on Zoom. It just wasn't working. So we're busy trying to work that out to make it better for our students. Okay, art, music, instructional material. Oh, no, we have a retirement. Jerry. Would you like to come up here and the board's going? Yes.
Jerry Valenzuela, I just want to say, we actually worked together. I think the only time I've been here, you've been here. But I can say this with great certainty. Jerry is not only beloved perspective, I mean, class act. Last year, one of our employees making a difference, and I had to do a double check on the clock because it's 5 years, but he has done so much more than 5 years of groundskeeping, keeping our grounds beautiful as they are. It's also been a valued coach and a pillar to this community. And we're very, very much, oh, thanks for that. With that, thank you. Okay. With all of that, Jerry's just been a tremendous asset, and we hate to see him go. I'm confident this is not the last we'll see of him, because you just can't keep a good man down. So Jerry, congratulations to you. Enjoy retirement. Thank you very much.
One of the very many reasons we have that our schools look the way they do, and I can't say thank you enough for on behalf of the students who just love where they go to school, and you will be missed. Please come back around. Whatever you want, grab a lawn, I don't know, whatever. So one more year, we'll see. We'll get you for more. We have a clock here for you. Symbolically, I will turn the alarm off because the alarm is no longer needed in retirement. And it says Jerry Valenzuela, 5 years of service for the Newman Crows Landing School District. So thank you, Jerry.
Okay. Next, we as a board, even our teachers are always evaluating our students. Why did I keep skipping?
Jumping.
I skipped, that's why. Art, music, instructional materials, and discretionary block grant. Mrs. Mendoza or Mrs.
We're tag teaming.
Oh, okay, tag team.
Good evening. We received some funding from the state that allows us to spend some money in some areas. So we can use this money for instructional materials in any standards-based areas. So for example, art, drama, math, science, it pretty much covers everything. We can also use it to improve school culture. We can use it for PD, instructional materials in that area. And another area that we have put some funding towards is developing a diverse and culturally relevant book collections or libraries. And then it can also cover some of the operational costs of implementing the different programs that we may spend the money on. So I'm going to let Carolyn talk the money. We have 3 years to spend it.
Yeah, we haven't
It's a
through
three-year
the
funding.
25-26 school year. So we looked at mapping out a plan to kind of break it up over during some phases. And in your board backup, you can see how it's broken down year to year. But we're looking at, we need to do a new math adoption. So that, and either the adoption or the supplemental, and then also adding a financial literacy component. So we're looking at programs to do that. Then, as Mrs. Bencourt said, we have the opportunity to really revamp our libraries and add some culturally diverse materials to that. So we'll be working with our librarians to come up with a list. This funding, there is another pot of arts and music funding that's going to be ongoing. So, and that has to be spent on salaries. This, we don't have to spend entirely on salaries, but we want to really look at our theater arts program because we have a very rich program, but we don't have any staff that's dedicated to it full time. And there can become some focus areas through this. So we plan to do that. And those 2 teachers would be the 3 years. This is for salaries for the 3-year period. And then we're looking at improving the amphitheater at YOLO because it needs a new sound system. And then we need storage for stage props, things like of that nature. So that will encompass the entirety of the grant, and it will be spread out over the 3 years.
Mrs. Mendoza, what I've been reading is about library materials. It's more digital library materials that are going rather than
It could be,
hardcover text.
it could be either,
It can be.
and curriculum can be either as well.
Okay. Thank you.
I'm a fan of the digital, but I'm also a fan of having that book in hand and reading.
I can't, if I'm gonna do art or music, I need the book or that rather than just the digital. So,
Brittany wants the digital like that.
are there any questions for Mrs. Mendoza or Mrs. Betancourt?
Yeah, I saw this similar amounts, I think this in the budget discussion. And I was, I guess I should say I was pleased because when you presented this a few months ago, and it seems like it was just last month, but it might have been 2 months ago, that we were getting $1,800,000 for arts, music, and instructional material. I know I was shocked, and I know in talking to people in the community, they were shocked that to think that we would commit all that money to, not that I'm anti-arts, but that just seemed like a huge amount of money to devote to just the arts. And now that I've read your budgetary proposal, I can see that actually we can spend it on almost anything, it looks like. I guess the only thing I would say is that this is the sort of hope for the next 3 years, right? So we aren't absolutely committed to this. If we should start down this path and we discover, say, that, I don't know, that we can't find 2 drama teachers, and, because performing arts drama teachers might be hard to find. I know we've had that problem with other subject areas. Then we could come back and take another look at it, right?
Yeah, it's nothing. It's not
Yeah.
for approval tonight. That's
Yeah,
what
it is up
is
for approval, but we're always adjusting
can-
and making adjustments to any grant or plan that we submit to the state. We would just have to,
We'd have
and
to
we're
come
actually
back-
not even submitting.
We'd have to come
the
back to
state.
you to.
We would
change.
just come back to you and say, we couldn't find drama teachers, but now we want to spend this money this way.
Okay.
And we would just update our plan. And then we just basically, and correct me if I'm wrong, we have to have it available. If any auditors come around and say, how are you spending this money? We need to be able to show that we had a plan for how to spend this money.
Right.
But like
We're
you
not
said,
actually going to start spending it until the 23-24 school year.
Right,
exactly.
that's correct. We have the money now and so this is where we get into where it looks like we're deficit spending because we're getting all the money this year. But we're not going to spend it till the next 3 years. We're not going to show the revenue again. The next 3 years, we're going to spend down the balance.
Okay.
So because of where we are this year and because it is so late in the year, they did approve this in the July 1 budget, but we're just now getting information on it. We're just now getting allocations. So we don't want to do a plan mid-year for this year. We're not going to start a new class in January because and uproot everybody. So we wanted to do something that's well thought out, looking at what we need and what fits into this category. This is where Governor Brown and Governor Newsom were different, where Governor Brown will just say, here's a pot of money, you guys decide what to do with it. And now here is a category, make it fit to what you need, make what you need fit into this. So that's kind of where we are with this, but it is more broad than just the arts, music, and instructional materials because it did have the word discretionary in there as well. So it's up to us what we can do with it. And we do have the ability to change mid-course if we can't find something, just like we do with the LCAP.
Okay, thank you.
Mrs. Mendoza, did we set the amounts for each one of them or was that by the grant? Like the amphitheater sound system says
So that's-
40,000.
We
That's our numbers because we went through and costed out different things, what we projected the things would be.
Because when I look at that and I think of like the sound system in my home, that's not a lot of money for a sound system for that amphitheater. It didn't sound like it, but
Yeah, so I know we have had some quotes and I know Mr. Vargas and Mr. Mendoza will work on updating those and we may have to allocate a little bit more money toward that. But we wanted to have a starting place.
thank you. Next is the board self-evaluation. Like our teachers, you evaluate your students. We need to evaluate how we're functioning here as a board. Now, we have 2 brand new members who will not be able to evaluate them, but once they look at the evaluation that we go through, maybe they can make comments to us or that. So it's really very intrinsic. within us. So there are only 3 of us that have to do that this year.
And then we're asking that these be submitted to Nancy by the 30th.
30th?
Yes. Yeah.
30th. Tens or ones?
In all categories.
Next is a discussion about math pathways and Ms.
We invite
Mr.
Mr.
Pruitt?
Pruitt to the lectern, and I'm going to talk about Jolene kind of introduced it for us in her report, is that we do have some students who have spent some months in distance learning, and we're not sure we saw the learning we saw from in person. So we have this idea that we'd like to hear a board comments on about changing the way or how or the course and scope in which we teach math. So I'll get out of Mr. Pruitt's way and explain.
So it was kind of nice of Julene to give us the lead right into this. And what we're looking at next year is, this is the big picture, what you see on there, this flow chart, and it kind of gives different entry points depending on what grade level you're at and where you are with math. But what I wanted to focus on is just right down the middle where you see grade 9. And how we're going to start implementing this big plan, but we have to start somewhere. So what we're going to do is next year for our math 1, for the past, it's been 6-7 years at least, that as students enter high school, their only option is math 1. It doesn't matter what level you are, how well you did on SBAC, everybody starts at math 1. So what we're doing next year is we're creating a stretch course, and we're calling it Math 1 AB. And so what students will do is their freshman year, if they choose this, the kids that are at grade level will go right to Math 1 as normal. But the ones that are 1 or 2 grade levels behind, you're looking at going into Math 1 AB. And the way that, in fact, our counselors have already gone to YOLO and done their balloting. And right now, out of the 240 students in 8th grade, out of the 240 students in 8th grade, 90 have been selected to take Math 1 AB. So we're looking at 3 to 4 sections of Math 1 AB. And I think it's very similar to what it was when you were in school, Frank. I'm going to go way back, but we had Algebra 1 and Algebra 1A. And Algebra 1A was that same concept. It stretched it out. But what we're going to do in that Math 1 AB is not just make it slower and louder, but we're going to put the interventions within the class so that we can get their skills back to them during that time. But it will take them 2 years to complete Math 1.
They still do remain on an A through
Right.
G college prep
Mhm.
pathway if they successful in math at 1 AB, A being the first semester, B being the second semester.
So you can follow that chart there.
Yeah, you'll see they end up completing Math 3 their senior year, which would put them 3 years of college prep math and eligible for a CSU system. As you also may remember, or maybe don't, JCs aren't really entering the remedial world anymore.
Nope.
They're not going to offer those remedial classes. So if we turn a student out of high school over to the junior colleges, they're not ready for college level algebra, there's not going to be classes for them to remediate. So we really need to make sure that our students are algebra ready come college, or it's going to be really hard for them.
Yep. That's, yeah. Okay. Yep. Okay.
Yeah, that's how I was.
So what'll happen is, so the students taking Math 1, they stay on progress. You can follow the arrows there. If they get an A or B, they stay kind of on the same course, or a C. If they flunk a class, they can repeat it, but you can kind of see how it goes through. The Math Essentials will be mostly IEP driven. So that's something that we offer now. But I also wanted to make sure that it's included as part of what we're doing. And then, so again, our goal is to keep them on A through G. So they would take Math 1 AB. Then next year, we're going to follow up. Those students that pass Math 1 AB would take Math 1 CD. And what that does is it breaks up basically the A and the B is a semester each. And then the colleges understand what the A's, the B's, and the C's and the D's mean. So we're kind of making it fluent with the colleges as well. Mhm.
If we have a student that because I know a lot of parents are going to say,
Mhm.
or maybe even teachers, they don't need, they can just go straight across. They already have the basis for it. We found that out through looking at our iReady, correct? Okay.
Mhm. So again, we've already accomplished this well, actually, in our foreign language program, where sometimes they come in and they're saying, I'm taking Spanish 1, and the teacher recognizes, no, you're trying to take it easy, you need to be in Spanish 2 or even Spanish 2 native. So our teachers are going to be on the lookout for that as well, just so that the kids aren't kind of laying low to hold back. So we want to keep advancing them and putting them at the right level. So.
And then the key is like if the lesson naturally had exponents, there would be more time in these A, B, C, D classes to reteach the idea of exponential functions and exponents so that they can kind of catch up on that learning that may have been lost. The numbers are balanced enough where it's not going to create a tracking in other subjects. Sometimes if you have only 1 or 2 sections of a different level, then those kids kind of get clumped all day long together and it creates a tracking. This won't do that because your numbers are almost 50-50, like 40-60 is
Right.
where you're at on the split. Nothing we have to do. We put it into the balloting. So in case we could do it, it was available, but
Right.
they could all take math 1. If the board's direction would be, no, let's keep them in math 1. That would be against my recommendation. I really think this is the way that's best for kids. Pending the discussion tonight, if that's the way it looks like we want to go, there would have to be some change in policy because we do have in our policy that we can't expand that over 2 years. So we have to just change that up.
Yeah, and again, just looking at the pathway, you can see it's we're actually putting a small piece in next year, because if we don't get something started this year, then it puts the whole thing 4 years again down the road. So we wanted to make sure that we start with that entry point and start somewhere to get this moving so we can get the kids some support.
And it was built, this concept was built in the cooperation of the math teachers. It's not, we vetted it with them and made sure that it was something they thought would work. Actually, it doesn't look anything like we originally put forward. They actually kind of did some changing, like we do this instead and this instead. We think that's the best way to go.
Yes. And then we had a parent, I think. Yep, absolutely.
So I remember the first year you guys implemented the math 1. That was my son's actual freshman year entering, and that's when you guys implemented all of it. Sorry. So when he came in, he was in honors, like he had taken 7th grade math in 6th grade, taken 8th grade math, 7th grade, and then 8th grade, that's when they kind of started finagling with this, and it kind of was a little bit blurry. He didn't get a chance to take algebra, but freshman year, he took math 1 honors.
Right.
So is this kind of almost a little bit the same? So math AB would be like the first entrance, and then math 1 would be like kind of the honors.
So what we'll have is we made the transition from math 1 honors to the teachers noticed there wasn't much of a difference between math 1 honors and math 1. So you don't actually start the honors program in math until math 3. So math 1 will be the students that are at grade level. And that's the traditional role, math 1, math 2, math 3, and then they can go into pre-calculus or calculus their senior year. So the math 1 AB are the students that struggle a little more with math, and then it'll be a stretch course. So they'll take the first semester of math 1 that first year. And then the second semester would be year 2. Does that answer that?
I mean, just so I know, math 1 honors
There is no math
Previously.
1 honors. Yep.
previously
Yep.
was a year and a half. It
It
was
was-
about a year and a half advanced.
The old one went math 1 honors, then math 2 honors, then math 3 honors.
So there essentially isn't really a honors class now,
At math 3, there is.
but I'm saying going in as a freshman.
No, there is not. No.
Okay,
The advanced class would be the math 1.
thank
Okay.
you.
Your name? Christy Diaz.
So are there any discussion, questions from the board? Concerns, comments, direction, steering, anything like that?
I'll make a comment, and I'm sort of channeling Paul, who's not with us anymore. But one of Paul's concerns used to be that and I think it grew out of the fact that his daughter was quite good in math, was the same kind of issue that our parent has just raised. And that is, if you do have somebody who's really gifted in math, do we have enough material in that first class, that math one, to keep them involved, to keep them challenged? I don't
Well,
think that we're going to have a ton of
I
kids
think-
like that, but we're going to have
I
some.
think it's kind of a twofold thing because our kids that would really benefit from math one AB really struggle in the math. And then the teacher now has to go to the middle of the class and meet the needs of the math one AB student that would be in math one AB and math one. So by splitting it up, it's going to be able to accelerate our math one students.
Could I suggest that if you did have a child that is clearly gifted in math, that you at least offer them something online or check to see if we could get them in a junior college program or something like that. Again, it's my kids are all grown.
Yep.
Not going to have any more. Don't have that problem. But and none of them were that good in math anyway. But you know, there are such kids out there. I've met them.
Yeah, go ahead. Sorry.
Well, I want to make sure that we don't take somebody and turn them completely off. I mean, if their real passion in life is math,
Yeah.
and here you are as a ninth grade student, that's what you've always shown in. You're not an athlete or whatever. This is your chance. I want to have some pathway, some pathways.
Athletes can do honors math.
Okay,
Yeah.
absolutely. I would have something that they can do in that class
Yes.
or offer them something in the way.
And that is built within these curriculums with these integrated math, is that there will be the expansion piece inside of the classes as well. The fact that calculus remains a viable section proves that we are accelerating kids, because really they have to kind of skip pre-calc in that to get there. Honors and math 3 does that. And so it is designed with that in mind. And I definitely hear you. And I think the teachers would very much appreciate, I know they've told me they would very much appreciate the opportunity to do that. But when you have so many kids, and you saw the aspect of first last time, yeah, so many kids that are like, okay, I have to address this 75% of or 85% of the population, it kind of slows me down in addressing the class expansion.
and I
will hear you, and we will make sure that is.
Okay,
I will tell you that I got a call from a parent earlier this year and said that my child can handle all the math one curriculum. And I said, well, you need the credit from math one for the college application. They're like, well, then I'm not saying take them out of math one, but is it possible as an experiment to enroll my child in math one and math two? And I have that student in both right now.
okay.
So, yeah.
But
So we work with the exception every time.
All right, that's all I was trying to express a concern about. I think it makes a lot of sense that we devote a tremendous amount of resources toward bringing people up to grade level. I'm not against it. I just think that you're right. I mean, if you have a kid that can do both,
Yep.
hopefully you're flexible enough to let them.
And I think it's an athlete too. So just messing with you.
So it couldn't be a football player, could it?
No,
I'm
maybe cross country.
Yeah, just teasing at every level. Easy, even.
Are there any other questions on the board or the audience? No. Thank you,
The
Mr.
next steps, we'll bring back some policy that would have to change for us to.
Mhm.
Yep.
Yes,
Thank you.
thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Next is the first intern, Mrs. Mendoza.
Yes, good evening. While Edward's bringing that up. The first interim is a report on all the activities since the budget passed July 1st through the end of October. So even though it's presented in December, it's just really reflects the activity of the first quarter. There we go. No, yes. It's on, yeah. Let's see, how do I get it? But where? Sorry, I always have trouble with the clicker. Okay. Thank you. You can skip that one too, Edward. Okay, so that we take a lot of things in when we plan the first interim, that we take some things under consideration, and we use a lot of data to prepare the projections throughout the year. First interim, we had a couple of pieces of one-time funding, like you just saw with the arts and music, and we had another large grant as well come in after the budget was passed. We look at our average daily enrollment, our average daily attendance versus our enrollment. Enrollment is how many kids are signed up for school. Average daily attendance is how often are they coming to school. So we have to plan for all the students, but we're funded on their actual attendance rate. So we look at our STRS on behalf and our impact on the reserve for economic uncertainty. When our expenditures go up, our reserve for economic uncertainty, which is kind of our safety net, that goes up as well. The amount of money we have to set aside increases. And then changes to the local control funding formula calculation. Sometimes after the budget's passed, they put in different cost of living adjustments. They put in different factors that we have to make a budget adjustments for. Next slide. So you can see our revenue summary. The revenue and the expenditures will change every interim period. You're going to look at what it was in the original budget in July. Our revenue was about 58 million. Right now, the current projected total is about 64 million. So we had some one-time money come in. We have some changes to the LCFF. One of the things that changed was how our average daily attendance is calculated. Now, instead of using what our actual is or what our prior year was, they're letting us use a 3-year rolling average because everybody's attendance was decimated last year, where our attendance rate was in the 80%. And now in other years, it's been 96.5, which was what we were using for our basis. So now it's about 92.5, but our 3-year rolling average is higher than that. So we're funded at the higher level. So that changed our LCFF revenue. We got an additional COVID money, our ESSER 3 money. Our state revenue increased and our local revenue increased as well. So, and you'll see those numbers fluctuate throughout the year. So our expenditures, you can see where our original budget was about 52 million and now it's about 55 million. We increased, as we got more revenue, we increased what we think we're going to spend since more money came in. But what we look at is we take that, and the board has set a level of 8% that they want us to have an 8% reserve. The state minimum has a minimum of 5% now. It used to be 3%, but now we're getting a little bit bigger. It's 5%. The max we can have is 10%, and then we have to do board designations. So our 8% is of the total amount of expenditures. So when we adopted the budget, it was 4.1 million, but just under 4.2. Now it's up to 4.4 million. So of an increase of $219,000. That's money that we have to set aside like our own rainy day fund. So where does the money come from? It comes from the local control funding formula. And there's a lot of changes sometimes that happen to the calculation. Every reporting period, they'll issue a new calculator with different factors. And so we look at our enrollment. We look at how many unduplicated students that we have that qualify us for additional funding, and look at attendance rates, things like that. The federal money, we had additional CARES Act and ESSER 3 allocations, which was one-time money. So you'll see the revenue this year, you'll see the expenditures over the next several years because we have a certain amount of time to spend that money. We don't want to spend it all at once. We want to stretch the dollars as long as we can. And then we have some new categorical programs. One is the expanded learning opportunity, which looks like it's going to be ongoing. And then the learning recovery block grant, which we're still planning on how to use that. That's about $5 million. And we have about 4 or 5 years to spend that money as well. And then the art, music, and instructional materials that you just heard about. So planning for the additional funding, we have the LCAP, which is the local control accountability plan, which we do every spring with our stakeholders. And that we plan what we can do with the LCFF, but then we have additional plans for some of the other funds. We used to have one gigantic LEA plan, which was for the whole district. Then we went to the LCAP, which was supposed to kind of take that place, and now we have all these supplemental plans as well. So we have two LCAP goals. All of the state indicators that we need to address through our funding we could wrap into two goals. One is preparing all students for college and career. And we do that through our actions of providing curriculum, professional development, and all sorts of interventions, and developing the pathways that Mr. Pruitt was talking about. And then the second goal is increasing parent, staff, and community engagement. And we have done that, a lot of social emotional support work. We have parent liaisons now who do a lot of parent communication, and through our health services, which have increased substantially. So all of these plans we are looking to lead us to success. So our multi-year projection, which is a big part of the first and the second interim, we look at enrollment. And we really haven't projected a lot of growth, even though we know there are a couple of housing developments that are working. They're coming in a little bit slower. So it's more conservative to take the students that you have, rather than planning ones that may come in. So we're always looking at facilities. We're always looking at growth when we're planning for facilities, but when we're talking about money coming in, we're going to be as conservative as possible. So we don't see a lot of enrollment growth for multi-year planning. So this year we had about just under 75% of our students are unduplicated, which means they generate additional local control funding formula dollars through the formula. There was a 6.56% COLA.
Just take a second to explain that unduplicated for our new board members.
Yes. So the local control funding formula has a base grant where everybody and every district in the state gets the same amount per student. Then they look at how many kindergarten through third grade students you have, and they do an add-on for those students. Then they look at how many high school students you have, and they do an add-on for those, because they know class size ratios for kindergarten through third, or actually TK through third grade are smaller. So they know it costs more money to run those classrooms. They know that 9-12 high school students need more dollars because of specialized classes. You may only have one calculus section, but you have to make sure you have a teacher that can do that. So it does cost more money to run those types of programs. Then they look at if you have more than 55% of what we call unduplicated students, and unduplicated are free students that qualify for free and reduced lunch, are English learners, or foster youth. So if a child is one of those categories, they're counted once. They might be all three. They might be two of them. They're just counted one time. So that's what they're called, unduplicated. 74.5% of our students fall into one of those three categories. Because we are over 55% of unduplicated students, we can offer all of the programs in our LCAP to all students. We don't have to do targeted interventions. We don't have to do targeted programs for just certain populations. So after you have the add-ons for the kindergarten through third grade and the 9th through 12th grade, then we have what we call supplemental. And the unduplicated students, they take how many of those and they do another add-on. Then they do, and I have a graphic and I'll include it in the next one. They take what they call concentration money. And that's another add-on for your 75% of these. So you can see your funding per student can grow exponentially. That's why negotiations get very interesting when you look at one district versus another, because the district next to you may have 30% unduplicated and get a lot less money generated, where another district might have 90%. So things are no longer equal. And prior to this, every district was funded the same. you were either a K-8 district, or you were a 9-12 district, or you were a unified district. And every, depending on what category you were funded the same per student. So this really changed the level of funding and really targeted these disadvantaged groups to provide more opportunities for success for them. Okay. So in looking at the projections, we always have to plan 3 years out. We're looking at our staff. How many full-time certificated staff do we have? How many full-time classified staff do we have? And how much management do we have? And there are ratios that we have to maintain. Next year, the cost of living adjustment is a little bit lower. I'm surprised that they're still talking about the cost of living increase, but I think because of the rainy day fund that's been fully funded, then they'll be able to buy that out. But we estimate that we're going to have an increase in certificated staff with the different positions. We have the autism program coming. We have a lot of different things that we're working in, not necessarily adding a lot more students, but having a lot more opportunities. And then to go with the autism program, especially, we will need additional classified support. The third year out, we're still looking at probably about the same number. And when we do enrollment projections, we take how many students are in each grade. And then the next year we just roll it down. So the graduating class exits, and then we kind of figure how many kindergarten kids will come in. And that's where we get the totals. So we're looking at probably a similar, they use a 3-year rolling average for the unduplicated students. And then the governor's budget kind of dictates where the cost of living increases, and the Department of Finance gives us guidance on what to plan for those. So in the third year, we are still planning to at least 2 additional certificated staff.
And then we also, on that enrollment, we know that a new house generates about a half a student. That's been studied for us, and we've been given that demographic. So if we have 100 new homes coming in, we know we get about 50 students from there.
So, and those numbers don't include that. So that will just be additional funding that we'll be able to absorb when we actually start to see them. Because the rainy day fund has been fully funded by the state, the school districts now have to have a reserve cap on how much excess reserve we can hold. So we can only hold 10% of our reserves, and that's restricted and unrestricted, or I'm sorry, that's just the unrestricted. We can have no more than 10% of the total annual expenditures. In the June, I believe it was in the June board meeting or in the September board meeting, I don't remember which, we passed a resolution to limit that, and the board gave direction on what types of expenditures to put in the designations. Changes in pension projections is a big consideration for all the districts in California, because this is an expense that is not, there is no specific funding for this. So local control funding formula pays for this, but it is a big cost. And so up through, I think, about 2013, the STRS allocation was always 8.25%. So we paid 8.25%. The employees paid 8.25% if they were in the teacher retirement. Now it's 19.1%. So every $1 million of salary, we have to pay an additional $108,000 than we would have paid before. So this year, it equates to almost $2 million in additional cost of what it would have been if the rate had stayed at 8.25%. The PERS, which is the Public Employee Retirement System, used to be capped at 11.4%. Now it's 25.37%. Luckily, it looks like it may be coming down slightly, but it's an additional $140,000 per $1 million of salary. So when you have $6 million, it's an additional $1.2 million in PERS contributions that the employee doesn't see, but the district has to pay it. So the average daily attendance impact on funding. Each student generates $13,146 if they came to school every single day. Once they start being absent, that dollar amount starts going down. So if our enrollment is 3,188, we have so many potential attendance days. So if we had 100% attendance, we'd have just under $42 million. So every 1% is about 419,000. So just to change 1%, to make a 1% attendance increase, it would mean we would need to capture 5,738 additional attendance days. So our current projection that we're using, our current actual, when I ran some numbers through the end of October, we were at about 92.5%. So we're looking at probably about 38 million, and the current funded ADA, which uses the rolling average, is 3,062. So you can see it's a big difference based if we were to fund it on actual versus what the state is allowing us to do with the average, and they take the higher calculation. So things that impact our average daily attendance projections, universal TK, because we're phasing this in. Every year we add a new month that transitional kindergarten students can come in. Next year it goes to April. So every year we stretch a month out. That means more students will qualify for transitional kindergarten. Next year we will take back our autism program from Patterson. We'll take back the Newman students who currently attend in Patterson. We will have them here. And that looks like it's going to be 2 classrooms. And then we have new residential development, and then just trying to get kids to come to school more frequently. Last year, it was really impacted because of mandatory quarantines. If you were diagnosed with COVID, you had to stay out 10 days, sometimes 20. Now the restrictions are lifted, so there is a shorter time to be absent. And I put together a timeline for the budget year. There's something that happens nearly every month, from January when the governor releases the budget to December when we're presenting first interim. There's something that happens nearly every month to look at as far as the budget cycle. And then as we get into the spring, we'll be dealing with the current year and next year's. And then until September, you're still working on the old year, trying to close. So I'm happy to answer any questions. And it's a lot of information. In your packet, there was a printout that went into more depth on all of it.
Mrs. Mendoza, or maybe Mrs. Fox, and I think most of ours, because the timeline for the budget year, is there a possibility of getting a better copy? Because if you look at this, that would be,
The printout's pretty small.
because we can't, it's because it's in black.
I think if you printed out just that slide and then emailed it.
Right. Are there any questions from the board? No? Okay, thank you. Thank you, Mrs. Mendoza. That's a lot to take in. Now we have a data talk on equity, Mrs. Relationship. Student connectedness to campus.
Yes, we're going to have, the question that was proposed for us to answer was examining student involvement and their connectedness to campus in our Beyond the Bell program, each of the elementary sites, the secondary school sites, to determine the level of connectedness. Edward, can you click to the next slide? And one more. So basically our goal is to look at how students or what our sites are doing to connect students to campus, because we know that the more connected they are, the more successful they are. There's data to show that. So each of the sites has 2 slides they're going to present, and Beyond the Bell. And we're starting with Beyond the Bell first, and then we'll just work our way through the elementary, YOLO, and then the high school. And they're going to give you a quick overview of how they're connecting schools to the students to their campuses and their programs.
Thank you, Ms.
Good evening. There you go, Edward. There we are. So that is the illustration I'm trying to make here is that students who have the luxury of being able to attend after school program get to stay on campus in small groups. The ratio needs to be 20 to 1 or less, which is less than a school day classroom. It's a beautiful opportunity for us to create relationships and learn the name of your dog and find out about your grandmother. And then as the clock ticks and 4 o'clock comes and 4:30 comes, the numbers get smaller and smaller because parents pick up, and our opportunities to have small group bonding and relationship building increase and increase up to 6 p.m. Our favorite line to hear is when parents come to pick up, when kids say, "Mom, please, no." I love that. Thank you, Edward. And just to illustrate for you, I'm not a big fan of reading the slide, but the opportunities to increase school connectedness are increased by more time with people that love them and see them, and more opportunities for student voice and student leadership and learning. So thank you.
How many students do you serve?
1,000 a day.
So to truly represent the connectedness for Bonita, I would have to say it's the staff that really does it, and the relationships that they build with our kiddos that go there every day. It truly is the things that they do that bring those kids and bring them back every day, and how they have just a great time. Every time I'm in a classroom or on the playground, kids are smiling, they're laughing, having a good time. And when they're in the classroom, they're learning, and they're just building on every day things that they're doing. So just a few examples of that. We have our IMC, or in the library, with we have our art, and I know art, all the elementaries have it, but Mrs. Ball's great. And then Mrs. Beth, our librarian, in there working with the kiddos on a daily basis. And then we have our kids that are doing science, and that was this is Cope's idea to get those lab coats, which are really cool. So they're working in that, getting them to, believe that they're a scientist, and they're doing what, they're having experiments and doing things like that in class. So just a few little things right there. Next. And then some outside stuff that we do. Our fall carnival was pretty successful. Kids get to dress up, there's games, and the amount of things that were, donated through the community was just awesome. We had a really, really good time. And next year, hopefully, our new board members can go and check that out. It'd be really cool. And then Red Ribbon Week, just, kids getting to dress up and have a good time as well. So those are a few things that happen at Bonita.
At Hunt Elementary, I'd say that we do strive to really build that student connectivity to our school community. There's several things that we do at Hunt Elementary, just a few snippets here. We have our monthly Tigers Assembly to celebrate students' achievement, their iReady success, and we also work towards the character traits every month. And so we teach them about the character traits every month. But to be at one of our assemblies, you can feel the connection. Kids want to be there. And I feel that joy every single assembly. We recently held our spelling bee and had great success with that. It was great to see our families there. We had our net assembly. This year we started our student leadership, really connecting students to the general student body, and student leadership is represented through 3rd, through 4th and 5th, and students from our SDC program. So it's great to see that representation. We have our Tigers Den where students earn little Tigers tickets, and the leadership team helps run that. Student leadership team, they run that. And it's another way where students, they work towards showing the core values. They work hard in class, they earn their little Tiger tickets, and it really brings that joy. We have connections through art class this year. Students have really enjoyed that. And we also do the student spotlights where students are celebrated by the yard duty and cafe staff for showing the core values and for really doing well. And we also have several family engagement nights. We have in October, we had a movie night, very well attended. And in September, we had another family engagement night. And just recently, go to the next slide if we can switch it. I think there it is, that we did Project Appleseed night. That was back in September, and we actually had a parent talk to our school community about Project Appleseed. And then on Friday night, we hosted about 160 people. It was between 150 and 160. It was very, very exciting, full of connection. And you can see you got Mr. Posey over there in the left-hand corner there with students connecting with school leaders where he came to our classrooms. We have various community members that came to the classes from law enforcement and fire, just sharing what they do for the community and for our schools. And we have another picture on the right with students connecting with our OH partners. And currently we are working on our holidays at Hunt, where we have card making, and administration team takes each class for about 45 minutes, and we get to enjoy the kids and build connections with them, and staff get a nice little 45-minute break. So I do feel that it's through those connections, when you get kids that really want to be there, they want it, they love their school. There's power in that. So yeah, thanks for letting me share.
At Barrington, our students enjoy a lot of fun activities. There's never a dull moment. Every day they are having the time of their lives. We had a book fair during our fall carnival, which was a huge success. Our 4th and 5th grade students took part in our spelling bee and went on to present or represent Barrington at our district level as well as their county level. We have our student council greet students as they arrive on Friday mornings, which all students enjoy. They are literally jumping up and down, welcoming their peers on campus. We also have a picnic day is enjoyed by all students. Next slide, please. Thank you. We celebrated Red Ribbon Week. All week, students had dress-up days, which they absolutely loved. We were able to have the whole school participate all together for a fire safety assembly. Students had an opportunity to see inside the fire truck and all their fancy tools. They were able to ask questions. And of course, the mascot was the highlight. Ms. Ball has been so amazing teaching art to all Barrington students, which students are loving as well as teachers. We have monthly character trait assemblies. And of course, we can't leave out Barry the Eagle, who loves to fly in to surprise our students. Thank you very much.
Good evening, everyone. We have a very diverse culture at Von Renner. We're very proud of that. We house the DLI program, and one of our biggest celebrations is the Day of the Dead, Dia de los Muertos. And as luck would have it, you see a couple of slides there in the upper left-hand corner of our students with some face painting, some costumes, and some culturally diverse activities that we do during the day with the students. You can see the altar in the very bottom in the center that was produced by our Dia de los Muertos committee, which luckily this evening we have the chairman of that committee here tonight, Ms. Anna Marroquin. She does a fabulous job putting that on. And her committee, they work really, really hard, put in lots of extra hours to make that happen. In the slide or the picture above the Von Renner symbol there, you see Mr. Posey in the center with, as luck would have it, on the left is our lead custodian, Darcel Ross. She was our Employees Making a Difference winner last year. And on the other side is Claudia Diaz, who was our Employees Making a Difference winner this year. So as you can see, the reason is because of the kids. We do things for the students and they respond. And we're very, very, very proud of that. And so we try and put on lots of activities that will engage them, that may be outside of the regular curriculum, but ties the regular curriculum into the fun that they can have. In the upper right-hand corner, you see we had a school-wide magic show, which was tied to science with Mr. Wayne Houchin, who's been on the Discovery Channel. He had a show on there for a couple of years that was really well received, and he tied in science. It was masterful. It was very good. Lower right-hand corner, you see our counselor, Eddie Davila. That's our 5th grade Connect 4 final during our assembly. We have our assemblies outside. We won't have them there for long once we get our building built, but for now, we have them outside. This was the final match. We have every grade level involved. We're up to 5th grade now. We finished that, and now we're having a staff tournament. So once the staff winner is chosen, we will play the winner of the 5th grade tournament in front of the school. So it's a lot of fun. Next slide. Here we have classrooms. Upper left-hand corner appears to be a 5th grade classroom. And we have left side lower is 2nd grade and another 5th grade classroom doing various activities. Intervention, our great intervention aides, as you can see on the lower right-hand side, there are doing one-on-one with students during intervention time. Obviously, it says bienvenidos intervención. That's our DLI, our Spanish portion of it. We have 2 intervention people in English and 2 in Spanish. And then, as been mentioned before, our great art program with Mrs. Ball, she's doing a fabulous job. Kids look forward to it every week, that they can get into their art class, and she's just a joy to have around. She fits in to our campus just like she's been there 100 years. Thank you.
We do have an open TK5 art position, so we can expand those art experiences to every week instead of every other. Art teachers are hard to find right now.
Good evening. So at the middle school level, student interest is diverse for our middle schoolers, and they're exploring new interests and trying new things and learning about themselves. And we want, as a school, we want to encourage, support, and celebrate that. So I want to start off with our Breakfast of Champions. That's the picture in the upper left-hand corner. And that's an opportunity for our teachers to select a student once a quarter. And that student can range from having good grades to just being an outstanding Panther Proud student. And we celebrate them by providing them with a nice breakfast in the morning. We have an award for them, and they have a nice picture opportunity with their teachers and their classmates. We also, of course, have YOLO Athletics. It is a transition from the elementary to the middle school. And the best way I can describe that is if you were able to participate in the Dig Pink event, the last match was electric. We had several just parents and students up in the stand jumping for joy at that last point that we unfortunately did not make. But it's a very exciting event. We also provide them with the opportunity to participate in our Future Chef competition, and that is a district event. We also have students participating in county events, and that includes the Stanislaus Spelling Bee, as well as our first Art Expo this year with our students. We were extremely excited about that. And as you can see, our 2 art teachers there, Mr. Gomez and Mr. Rios, also very excited about their first art exhibit. We provide several opportunities through Club Rush. We have several clubs that are offered to our students both during lunch and after school. Right now, our count is 10. And so, like I said, we want to meet that diverse interest of our students. And of course, we're working on our school spirit this year. You can see our Panther there, even at the middle school level. The Panther, when he makes an appearance, he gets surrounded by our middle school students. So I want to say that school connectedness is more than just the activities that we provide the students with. It's also about our school personnel being available to support our students. And what I want to show you there is our numbers of our students that reach out to our student support staff. So you can see in August, we had 70 students reach out to our counselor and want to speak to them about, for different reasons, academics, social emotional support. In September, I went up to 73, and you can see October there at 190 connections with our counselor. And then in November, 104. So not only do we provide the activities and the fun stuff, but we make sure to build those relationships with our staff. And the final thing that I want to mention is our parent involvement. Student connectedness is not just our students. We want to make sure that our families feel connected and feel comfortable to coming on campus, especially at the middle school level. So we provide them with nights of informational nights that they can attend. Also second cup of coffees where we talk to them about things that are happening on campus and welcome them during the day. And recently we had our first parent appreciation drive-through where we provided coffee and hot chocolate and pastries to our families coming through, and they were very appreciative of that. And that is School Connectedness at YOLO with a snapshot.
Okay, at the high school, again, we get the benefit of everything that the great things that the schools previous to the high school are doing, which means students kind of come in with an expectation of being connected to campus. We started a new program, Avid, this year, and one of the things I think Mr. Posey and I talked about was, is it making a difference? So again, it's given them a connection to campus, it's given them a connection to a mentor on campus, and but is it making a difference? What that first chart shows you is, in the purple is our students in Avid. So it's their grades. So out of the 29 students, they each received 8 grades. In those 8 grades, you can see that 64% of those grades given out are A's for Avid. Now, I also took a sample group, and I had to pick the same period so I didn't overlap any students. So I just grabbed an English 9 class and I ran all their grades as well to compare. So you can see that the average of the A's are higher. But the thing you have to understand is the students that get chosen for Avid are average students that show the teacher some promise that they, with a little push, they can get into college. So look at the A's that those students are doing compared to an average. Now, it's a majority of A's. So if you look at that down, it's 64% A's, it's way over. So their A's have come way up. And you can see down to the F, it's 1.9% of their grades are F's. Whereas before, those were our average students.
And so those Avid students in 8th grade, the target GPA was like a 2.5, 2.9. They're not 4.0 students. They were pretty much C, high C students in 8th grade. And you can see what they're doing through this program. And
you can see quite a few 4.0 students in this grouping. Okay. The next one was a student engagement. And this is what we give our leadership class. So through Ms. Chance, I give them the roster for 9th grade. I give them the roster for 10th grade, 11th grade, and 12th grade. And the students are in that class. They represent a club, an organization, because again, at high school, we start at 7 a.m. and sometimes we're not done until 11 p.m. at night. And it's just about every night, at least until 10 p.m. at the high school campus. And it has a lot to do with the staff that put in the time to be able to allow those students to be connected, whether it's academics, the library, athletics, whatever it is, but there is always a staff member there for students. If you look at this in 9th grade, when we first started, we had 22% of our students connected to campus, meaning they're in a club, they're in on a team, they have some way of being connected to campus, whether that's Avid or drama or something. And then we had Club Rush, we had advertisement, basically letting them know how they can get connected. And then in December, you can see that 9th grade went from 22% to 30%. 10th grade went from 28 to 46. 11th grade went from 39 to 47. And then you look at our 12th graders, they came in at 67, but now they're to 75. And I will tell you, doesn't even compare to before pre-COVID. I know we're not supposed to use that term, but pre-COVID, our numbers were much higher, but you can see we're well on our way to get some of those numbers back and getting our kids connected to campus. And actually watching the other presentations from the other principals, seeing how connected our kids are getting. I think our connectedness to campus are already going to be coming in that way. So it's pretty exciting. Next slide. The next one is this is our link crew. And our link crew is all about mentoring our incoming freshmen. Again, it's the largest class that Oristemba has ever received. It's 290 students. You can see they fill the bleachers on one side of our stadium. It's a little spaced out. We could squeeze them a little tighter, but for the orientation day, before they came to Oristemba, they were given a survey. You know, how anxious are you about coming to high school? What are you nervous about? Those kind of things. And then there's 51 link crew members. And what they pulled out from their surveys, they wanted to highlight this one question basically is, before freshman orientation, what was your anxiety level? And then after freshman orientation. So they wanted to know, did the trainings that they did over the summer, did the mentoring they did of the freshmen and meeting with them, does it make a difference? And you can see right there, it made quite a big difference in the comfort that the students felt, which I think lends to you're coming in, you're comfortable, you have an older student that's looking out for you. And I want to get involved. So I think that all lends into it. So, but that was the one data point that group of students was most proud of. So thank you.
Okay, I think we're the last one, right? Yeah. So now for West Side, it's a little bit more difficult. These are some of the kiddos that have had some struggles in school, but definitely, you know, close to my heart because I've been working with them and dealing with them for years to try to get them their diploma. Some kids come in, lots of credits down, and Mr. Mendoza just does a good job every year trying to get these kids to come to school on a regular basis. And that can be a problem sometimes. That's just the truth. And so whether he has to come up with activities for them, you know, like this science one that they're working on, you know, they're having a good time, but they're also catching up on those credits that they have, because what we want them to do is the biggest thing is just get that diploma at the end of the year for them so that they can go out into the job market, because we get calls all the time for records and past students that haven't finished their diploma and they need to come back and try to get it. And they're having a hard time because they're not able to apply for a job or whatever it may be in their life. So connecting them, getting them some way. And this year's, we've had a pretty big improvement. We're working on a different online platform for credit recovery, and that's been super successful. So hopefully we're able to do some things with the high school as well. I'm not sure how that's all going to work, but we're definitely looking into that to get these kids caught up a little bit quicker. You know, and then Mr. Mendoza does a great job. You know, he has his meal out every week. So kids that just another little thing, kids that complete so many classes on their credit recovery, you know, he gets them lunch every Friday, you know, so we'll pitch in, me and him, we'll go and, you know, we'll get them whatever they want, whether it's a sandwich or a burrito or something like that. And it's not a lot, but, you know, it gets them bought in. They're kind of excited for that, you know, for that particular on that day. So, hey, whatever we can do to get them involved. And hopefully this year and in the past, we've done a few field trips every year. And Mrs. Mendoza has been great about this, about getting us to be able to either we've gone to Alcatraz in the past. We've done Yosemite. We've done Monterey Bay. So just a few other things to get them involved. And we usually do this for those kiddos that have really earned it, passed those classes, and are on track to graduate. And that's an incentive for them to go. You know, we'll take them for the day, get them lunch, and it's a pretty good experience. We try to do it in the fall and in the springtime if it's available. During the past, you know, pandemic or whatever, we haven't been able to do any of that stuff. So hope we can get back to doing that in the future. Okay, thank you.
Yeah, thank you all. You can see that our students really, our administration, our teachers work really hard to make sure our students have the opportunity to be part of the school. And yeah, those were tamales in my hand. I mean, really good.
Next is a data talk on equity, academic readiness, and at the middle and high school.
Good evening. So I'm going to be talking about the academic readiness and exploring the academic readiness as our students go from 5th grade to 6th grade. So that transition period, I'm sure if we ask parents and we ask students if that's a difficult transition, the instinct would be yes, it is, right? There's a lot of challenges. But we're going to actually look at the data to determine if they struggle academically and if there's as much of an academic disconnect as sometimes we feel like an emotional disconnect just because life changes a bit. So if you look on the left, so this is 2022, the SBAC 5th to 6th grade comparative data, the ELA graphs. So the very bottom ones, I'm going to add those 2 bottom rows and columns, I guess. In 5th grade, students were meeting and exceeding standards about 36%. And then 6th graders this year, about 30% were meeting and exceeding standards. It's not an exact because these aren't the same students, but historically, students as they went from 5th grade to 6th grade perform about the same, if not better. Typically, our 6th grade students have a boost actually in data compared to their 5th grade scores. In math, if you look at the bottom 2, in 5th grade, 16% this year in 5th grade were advanced, proficient or advanced, exceeding standards, and in 6th grade, 22%. So our 6th graders this year did better in math than our 5th graders. It's hard to find a little historical piece because we tabled SBAC for a few years, but I thought it would be a good thing to kind of point out our same student study. So if we look at the same students, that's the chart on the right, we can follow them. Let's look at 2016. If we look at our 5th graders, 46% are meeting and exceeding standards. That same group of students, when they're 6th graders, 46% are meeting and exceeding standards. If we look at the 2015 in 5th grade, 31% were meeting it and exceeding standards. 2016, it jumped to 50%. So that right column, you can see at the very bottom, 6th grade tends to make up ground. And so we look into that too. There's a lot of reasons. I've been asking 6th grade teachers, tell me more. And so we've been having some conversations. One of the things, the double block really helps them out. So the transition isn't as difficult as one might think. They don't go to 7 teachers right out of the gate. You know, they go to 2. They have 2 teachers that have double blocks. That helps that transition a lot. The 6th grade teachers tell me that it helps that they focus on 2 subjects and they dig deeper into the standards, where elementary teachers have all the standards. And that helps as well. So I think between the double block, they are prepared academically. I mean, of course, we always want better and more, right? But there's not a loss when they go to 6th grade in terms of their academic outcomes. So that's, we don't see a loss there. This is iReady's 5th and 6th grade comparative data. That was just diagnostic 1. So this was just August. And again, these are 2 different groups of students. But again, you can see how the trends stay about the same. So we don't see anything that's, you know, really alarming that they go to 6th grade and, you know, it's a challenge for them. So again, the message overall is that students, when they leave 5th grade and go to 6th grade, they're staying either about the same or they do better. So we can still work on improving the transition when we think about emotionally being ready to go, feeling confident as students when they go, And some of those social emotional skills, transitions for students and parents, to really inform them of what's different and also what's the same. And we have started having some of those conversations with the students, like, it's not scary, it's really great. You're going to get to do these positive things, and try to just frame it where there's a little less anxiety as they head to 6th grade. Another transition support we are exploring is from elementary to middle school. So the 2nd semester in 5th grade, and some have already started it. Some 5th grade teachers just put them on Canvas right away. And all the rest of them though need to be on Canvas the 2nd semester. And that really helps the 6th grade teachers and parents a lot, that's not another new whole learning platform that they need to learn. So that kind of helps to ease that. And then as we have a grading policy committee that we have established. And so we are exploring the idea of transitioning to letter grades in grades 4, 5 to also have that a little less too. When they're in 4th and 5th grade, if the students get a 1 or a 2 on their report cards, you know, what is that? How does that translate? What does that really mean? And then they go to 6th grade and have like a D or an F. And then that's jarring because parents know what that means. So we're looking at exploring that topic. We have a committee that is doing that, and then also a possible timeline. But overall, it's pretty positive. I think our 5th to 6th grade they're doing a good job.
Good evening. Let's see. Perfect. Okay. So what I was looking at is I was in charge of looking at our current 9th grade students and seeing if summer school was effective or not. So what you have here is we had last year 226 students who were in 8th grade. And out of those 226, we had 64 students who enrolled in summer school. Out of those 64, we had an average of 45 daily attendance, which is actually really good for summer school. What you will see, though, is out of those 64, we had 49 students who did not promote. Out of those 49, we had 30 who did attend summer school and 19 who did not. Our focus for summer school last year was on study skills, organizational skills, writing, and goal setting, which is what is necessary for our freshmen to be successful, one of the areas. Based on what the information that we found, what I'm going to show you is we're determining whether or not summer school was a success. So in looking at the data, you're going to see that the 30 students who attended, we had a large majority of students, unfortunately, that are currently, these are Q1 grades. They are receiving 2.0 and below, quite a large number, as well as our which happen to be our 9th grade students. They are also receiving Fs and Ds. Now, these students also received a 1 and 2 on the SBAC, so there is a correlation on that. And I know I'm giving you bad news, but I'm giving you good news too. So just hold on tight. For the students who did not attend summer school, we had 19 students, and if you notice, it's the same trend. We had a large population of our students who also scored a 1 and 2 on SBAC. They're also receiving a 2.0 and below, and also receiving Fs and Ds. So we took all this information, the admin team and the teachers, they've come together and they have a plan or focuses in place. And those focuses are that they're having conversations with students, at-risk students and parents. They're having meetings with them. Our district also has purchased the Beyond SST platform, which basically what it is a one-stop shop, if I can say, where we're documenting those steps that we're doing with all our students. This is the first time that we are going to be able to track K-12 students. So all our teachers are being trained on it. They're having pre-SSTs and SSTs. At our high school, they are holding before school, after school tutoring for both math and ELA. Actually, Oristimba has partnered with Stanislaus State, and they we have tutors that are coming and they are able to go, I think approximately 350 hours of tutoring that they get to give our students. And that's amazing. And it doesn't cost us a penny. It's a partnership that they created.
Take a brief moment and explain what an SST is.
An SST, thank you. An SST is a student study team. So what happens is the conversations that the admin and the teachers are having, if we see a student who is failing, then we bring a group together first. But what happens before the SST, the pre-SST, is you bring together your team, your teacher, your psychologist, your behavioral specialist, whatever that may be, and you find out what things have been done. What are the strategies that you're doing? Is it a behavior? Is it a discipline? Is it, do we need to offer more support? Once that is determined, then we put steps in place. Usually about 6 to 8 weeks, we allow a system to kind of be put in place, those interventions. Once those interventions are put in place, if we don't see improvements, then we hold the SST, which is the student study team. And the student study team involves the parent. So then now the parent, that doesn't mean that conversations are being had with the parents. Like I stated, one of the big things that both sites have pushed is that whenever they see students who are at risk, they're having those conversations with the students, the teachers, as well as communicating with the parent. But the SST is a formal gathering where we bring in all key holders that we have, and then we develop a system in place. And that beyond SST will help us to track all of that. Before we used to have spreadsheets and maybe admin would leave or teacher would leave and there was no tracking. Now we have a tracking system. Any questions on that? Oops, sorry.
So one of the things that this showed us was that, and one of the questions the board had literally on coming our first day here was, does summer school, is it effective? Does it actually make a difference to the kids when they're coming from 8th grade to 9th grade? And it's looking like it's not, there's not a difference, which is okay. There's not good news, there's not bad news, there's just news. And once you know that now isn't effective, now you can start making the, now you hypothesize, now you say, let's try this and we'll see again if that worked. And we'll keep doing that until we find what does work.
Yeah.
And so we're talking about maybe having a summer school that preloads the assignments for 9th grade. You do the first few weeks of 9th grade assignments so the kids walk in already having the work done and they can start enjoying success immediately and start pre-teaching those skills directly what they might need to be successful in those first few weeks of 9th grade, jumpstart that success, if you will. So, and maybe that works. We'll come back and find out. And so that's just kind of the learning process, that wheel of learning, test and
Mr. Posey hit it on the nose because that's exactly what this slide is about. So perfect. So it is that we are looking at summer alternatives to summer programs and finding alternatives as also instructional, like Mr. Pruitt mentioned, AVID. We're opening up more AVID courses. Is that an option? As well as the math progression that they're doing. We're looking at all that to ensure. And then as well as we're going to ensure that those students who do need that support that SSTs are being held. So, because unfortunately, our current systems aren't working, but that doesn't matter. We know that, and we're going to fix it. We're going to find alternatives.
One of the things that talking to parents and very informally, they said, well, my student's going to summer school. I'm really glad they're going, but they don't want to go. They feel they're, and I'm using their term, stupid. And I said, learning isn't stupid. We just have, there are new ways of doing it. Maybe a new person can help you show something that maybe not that you did wrong, but another way of attacking it. And the parents were like, oh, they got to go again. It's almost, like we look at all what has happened beforehand and you see all the excitement and this small group feels almost defeated before they get in. It's like, I wish we could set up fireworks.
Yeah. And if you remember our last meeting, we talked about motivating the students, finding what that connectiveness, so those are areas that we are looking at is, I was sharing with Mr. Pruitt and Kim that I'm looking at a UC Merced, I think it's called Math Academy program, just an option that they've been very successful with over there. So I've just had one meeting with them. I'm looking for more to see what are their successes and trying to see, like Mr. Posey said, could we give them,
units or credits moving forward. And then that way it entices them to want to be there, because motivation is a big thing. And finding a summer connectiveness, especially when everyone's going to Hawaii or, traveling, or they're just tired. And I think coming out of that word over there that, we know that some of our kids and our students feel that as well, that they're behind. I actually had a conversation. I got to meet with a student in Mr. Gonzalez's class at the West Side. And I sat down with them and just kind of talked to him, just because I had him when he was in 4th grade and he's there. So when I heard he was there, I needed to make that connection. So I made an appointment and I sat down with him and I talked to him, and I got to learn a lot about his life. And COVID really hit him and his family really hard. But we sat down, we developed a plan, and just hoping that it would make a difference. Who knows, but he knows where I'm at, and he has my district email, so maybe we can make that connection. But absolutely, finding that motivation for the students is it's going to be difficult, but I think we have a good team where, with all the connectiveness that they've talked about, that we can develop something like that from 5th grade moving up. So
I think that's what makes Newman different than most. We take that connectiveness and now we're growing it more. So before we did it in many ways, now it's kind of a concerted effort between all of the schools. And the idea that I care about you. It's not just that I want you to get the grade. I want you to enjoy learning.
absolutely.
And I think, like you said, once we get, I don't know if we can get over it, the COVID, and they feel safe again, I think we'll see a big difference.
Yeah. And I
I
paid
like
close
that.
attention to our budget, because I wrote down some things. I'm going to propose some things to Carolyn. Maybe we can use some money for something else. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Are there any other questions from the board? No? Okay. Next, we have the first reading. New board members, this is your homework, our homework too. We read these. There are some changes in what has happened over the years. There are many of them. And sometimes they're only changed because of a couple words or something, but it'll enlighten you and give you a headache after a while. Okay, action items, consent calendar. Sorry. The consent calendar items are routine in nature and usually do not require board discussion. Individual items may be removed by board members and presented for discussion and separate action. The consent calendar will be adopted by a roll call vote.
Motion.
A motion?
So moved.
Second. Okay. May I have Mr. Bizarre?
Aye.
Mr. Cabral?
Aye.
Mrs. Conforti, aye. Mrs. Hurst?
Aye.
Mr. Rivas?
Aye.
Yeah, I got it. Approve first term interim budget. Mr. Bizarre? Oh, motion, sorry. Right. A second?
I'll second it.
Okay. Okay, Mr. Bizarre?
Aye.
Mr. Cabral?
Aye.
Mrs. Hurst?
Aye.
Mr. Rivas?
Aye.
Mrs. Conforti votes aye, 5-0. Approval of the annual and 5-year developer fee report for the year 2021, 2022. Mendoza?
Yeah, in your packet, you have the 5-year report, which is, we have to do annually, and it reports the past 5 years of what we've spent, of what we've received, and then what we spent in the last, in the year 2021, 22.
May I have a motion to approve the annual and 5-year developer fee report?
I'll make a motion.
And second was Mr. Rivas. Okay, Mr. Bizarre,
Aye.
Mr. Cabral.
Aye.
Mrs. Conforti votes aye. Mrs. Hurst,
Aye.
Mr. Rivas.
Aye.
Passes 5-0. Approval of art, music, instructional materials and discretionary block grant. May I have a motion?
So moved.
A second?
I'll second it.
Ms. Frank. Okay, Mr. Bizarre,
Aye.
Mr. Cabral,
Aye.
Mrs. Conforti, aye. Mrs. Hurst,
Aye.
Mr. Rivas.
Aye.
Passes 5-0. Approval of resolution numbers 16-15-2020 of the governing board Newman Crows Landing Unified School District authorizing the execution of the amended joint powers agreement and bylaws of the Central Regional School Insurance Corporation.
So we belong to a co-op basically for insurance, so kind of self-insured through this fund of groups, if you will. And this is just reauthorizing that. They kind of emailed us kind of last minute and said, we just realized we didn't do this at the beginning of the year, like the whole group. So it's just keeping us authorized through them.
May I have a motion?
So moved.
May I have a second? Okay, Mr. Bizarre, Mr. Rivas, yes. Mr. Bizarre?
I did.
Mr. Cabral,
Aye.
Mrs. Hurst,
Aye.
Mr. Rivas.
Aye.
And Mrs. Conforti votes aye. 5-0. Future agenda items, we have to approve the governance handbook that we have, the audit report, single plan for student achievement, and the SAR report.
And then we'll be bringing a board policy for the math we talked about.
Mhm.
We'll bring that next meeting. The data talks is on school safety and facility. Is there any specific area you'd like us to focus on? Okay. And that's all.
Okay, and Mr. Posey, your report.
Well, first I'd like to welcome our new board members. Thanks for serving and we appreciate it and welcome. Thanks for having us. Hope we haven't like overloaded you tonight on information and it's like total immersion, right? It's like that dual immersion program. Eventually you start speaking the language and it all because wow, I just said that. I will reach out to both of you of our new members to schedule some tours of the campus during the school day. We'll get that done so you can see the classes in action. I can tell you that I try to spend the first part of every day welcoming students onto the campus and they're still smiling. Some days a little more tired than others, but they're still smiling and they're still giving fist bumps and hugs and they're really happy to be on our campuses. It motivates me to do the work because of the students. Our teachers in the classroom are tired because they're working so hard. And then I see it and I hope they all have the break that's upcoming. I hope they get time to step away. And I know it's an extra week this year and I hope they really appreciate that extra week because I know they like the 2 better than the 3. We heard that, boy, we're going that way next year. But I do hope they get rejuvenated because I can tell they've put in the work. That's certainly. Just going to drop this little spoiler alert. Santa Claus is coming to town. We'll let you figure out what that means. And we're really starting to spend our time now planning for the next school year. It's really kind of the time, believe it or not, it's already time where when we say this year, we're almost talking about 23, 24 now. So that's kind of what we do. I got while we were in this meeting, I got a note from Vicki Felber that our Dig Pink did $17,000 of fundraising this year, which is a new record for us. That's our cancer awareness, our breast cancer awareness volleyball pink event. So congratulations to Horston High School, to Yolo Middle School, to the district, because that's a big number. And it certainly is an event that lets us show the community how much we care and show how great our students are. So that's my report.
Mr. Bizarre,
Well, I just want to wish everybody a Merry Christmas and Happy Holidays, and we'll see you next month.
thank you. Mrs. Hurst,
Ditto. No, I really do. I wish you a Merry Christmas and a blessed New Year. Be safe. As I was listening to those 2 data talks, I was thinking to myself that perhaps if people in the school that I went to, high school, had spent more time trying to make me feel connected or worried about my academic progress, I might not have dropped out of high school. So I am very, very appreciative of this. So thank you for the hard work, because I know there was a lot of work that went into this. And thank you for the semester, because I know it also was a hard semester, just trying to get everything to gel back. Okay, so thank you.
Mr. Rivas.
Happy to be
You're
here.
not on.
Good, Merry Christmas and New Year.
Mr. Cabral.
Once again, just like Frank said, we're here to, everyone in this room is here for the same thing. You know, the kids in our community, they're gonna be in your seats and my seat here in the next 20 years. Everybody pretty much knows me in the whole town, so I'm pretty easy to go along with. I'm involved in a lot of organizations. What's that, man? Once again, thank you for having me. Have a good Christmas, have a good New Year, be safe, and we'll see you guys next month.
Thank you. I also haven't done this since school started. I loved when we had the floral group. Please pass on to the floral department. I am just so amazed at what they have given. I joined the floral, whatever, or every month. October's was beautiful. November's was beautiful. I can't wait for, should be getting December's, right? I think there's a December one.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm on the full, do the whole year, but I mean, it's great. There's no way I'm going to not take flowers. And after the bell, I didn't say it the last time, but the children are just so amazing what they do. They exude. I want to go, and I can imagine Christmas, they're going to say, or the holiday season, I don't want to stay home. I want to go to school. And the same thing with the rest of our schools. Principals, take time out. When you walk out of here, lock the door, but also lock your brain for a minute and have fun, please. You work way too hard, and I appreciate, and so does the board, everything that you do. Thank you very much and have a good year. Bye-bye. See you next year. Kate, don't need a motion. Okay, it's 8:45, 7:45.
Nancy.
Great.
Do you, Nancy?